So, what if everything you thought you knew about wealth was completely fundamentally wrong? Forget the flashy cars, the designer clothes, all that stuff. Today, our deep dive reveals a truly surprising truth about who the wealthy really are in America. And maybe even more importantly, how seemingly ordinary people achieve real financial independence.
That's right. We're going to pull back the curtain on the real affluent, not the kind of caricatures you might see on, say, reality TV. For this deep dive, our guide is The Millionaire Next Door. It's a groundbreaking book by Thomas Stanley and William Danko.
Right, Stanley and Danko.
Yeah. And they dedicated decades, literally decades, to researching affluent Americans. They weren't just trying to figure out who these people are, but really understand the how. How they actually built their wealth.
Exactly. And our mission today, yours and mine, is to cut through all the noise. We want to uncover the core principles of wealth accumulation, pull out some genuinely unexpected facts, and really challenge those common misconceptions that, let's face it, we all seem to carry around.
Absolutely.
We're going to explore the maybe surprising habits and deeply held beliefs that separate those who actually build significant, lasting wealth from those who might earn a really high income, but then, well, just watch it all disappear. So get ready for some insights that honestly just might reshape your entire perspective on money. Let's unravel this.
Okay, so the single biggest misconception, the one that really trips people up, is confusing high income with wealth itself. It sounds simple, but it's a critical distinction. Wealth at its core isn't about what you spend. It's not about what flows through your hands. It's really about what you accumulate, what you keep.
That's such a powerful way to put it. Accumulate, not spend. And the book makes it incredibly clear. Back in 1996, there was over $22 trillion in personal wealth in America. I mean, just think about that number.
It's staggering.
But here's the real kicker. Nearly half of that enormous sum was owned by just 3.5% of households. So you've got millions of households earning, decent to high incomes, maybe $50,000, $100,000, even more per year. But so many of them are actually living paycheck to paycheck. Very little accumulated wealth. It's what the authors call, pretty aptly, I think, the high earner trap.
Exactly, the high earner trap. And looking bigger picture, the authors found something really interesting. True wealth. It's rarely just about sheer luck or, getting a big inheritance. It's not even necessarily about having advanced degrees or being exceptionally intelligent.
That's the surprising part, isn't it? Not intelligence.
Right. Instead, it's consistently linked to a lifestyle of hard work, perseverance, planning, and maybe most importantly of all, self-discipline. So it forces you to ask, okay, if it's not about those things we usually think of, what is the real secret?
And to really hammer home this difference between income and actual wealth, the book introduces these two fascinating categories. Prodigious Accumulators of Wealth, they call them PAWs, and Underaccumulators of Wealth, UAWs.
UAWs and UAWs.
So PAWs are the ones who build up way more wealth than you'd expect for their income and age. While UAWs, well, they build up significantly less, and they even give us this surprisingly simple formula, a wealth equation, to figure out what your expected net worth should be. It's just 1/10 of your age multiplied by your total annual income. What did you think when you first saw that formula?
Well, it's almost deceptively simple, right? Because it just cuts through the noise immediately. Anyone listening right now, you can do a quick calculation. 1/10 of your age ties your total annual income, that number. That's your expected net worth.
Expected, right.
And the gap between that number and your actual net worth, that tells you pretty quickly if you're leaning more PAW or UAW. Like, they give this example of Charles Bobbins. He's a 41-year-old fireman. His wife's a secretary. Their combined income is $55,000. So using the formula, his expected net worth should be around, what, $225,500?
Right. But the book says Bobbins is worth much more, like enough to live for 10 years without working. He's a classic PAW, a perfect example of how a low-consumption lifestyle driven by discipline really adds up.
Exactly. And then you contrast that with, say, Dr. John J. Ashton. He's 56, a doctor, pulling in a huge $560,000 a year.
Wow.
His net worth is $1.1 million, which, sounds impressive on the surface.
Yeah, sounds great.
But based on his age and that massive income, he should be worth over $3 million. He's a UAW. And with his high consumption lifestyle, the book estimates he could only keep that up for maybe 2, perhaps 3 years tops if he stopped working.
It just perfectly shows that high income doesn't automatically equal high wealth.
Not at all. And these examples, they lead us right to the core of their findings. These 7 common denominators, shared characteristics, of people who successfully build wealth. You can think of them almost like a practical blueprint, maybe a roadmap to becoming affluent that just keeps showing up.
Okay, let's list them out. So, number one, they live well below their means. That seems fundamental, keeps coming up.
Absolutely fundamental.
Two, they allocate their time, energy, and money efficiently, always in ways that help build wealth.
Efficiently.
Three, they genuinely believe financial independence is way more important than showing off social status.
That's a big one. Less about looking rich, more about being financially secure.
Four, this is interesting. Their parents did not provide what the authors call economic outpatient care. EOC. We'll have to dig into that one.
Yes, EOC. We definitely need to unpack that. And number 5 kind of follows from that. Their adult children are also economically self-sufficient.
Okay.
6, they are good at spotting and targeting market opportunities.
Proficient, yeah.
And finally, 7, they chose the right occupation. Now, it's easy to just hear these and think, okay, yeah, common sense.
Right. Seems obvious.
But the real insight isn't just what they do. It's how consistently these habits show up across thousands of millionaires, often just completely defying our modern ideas about consumption and displaying success. It really makes you question your own assumptions.
Okay, so if wealth isn't just about how much you earn, and it's built on these disciplined, maybe even quiet habits, then that image most of us have, the mental picture of the typical millionaire. It must be totally wrong, right? Let's sort of peel back the layers on that stereotype and see what the data actually says.
It's really quite striking when you look at it. Most people imagine someone in expensive designer clothes, driving a brand new luxury car, flashing a fancy watch. The study found that's rarely the case for the actual millionaire next door.
Okay, give us some examples.
All right, consider suits. The typical American millionaire, they spent no more than $399 on their most expensive suit.
$399. Seriously.
Seriously. But here's the kicker. For every one millionaire who owns a $1,000 suit, there are at least 6 non-millionaires, people earning maybe $50K to $200 who own one.
Wow, so the non-millionaires are buying the expensive suits.
Often, yes. And watches. The vast majority of millionaires never spend even a tenth of $5,000 on a watch. Only a tiny fraction, like 1%, spent $15,000 or more.
And cars. That's always the big one. Forget the current model imported luxury cars, right?
Mostly, yes. Only a minority drive foreign cars at all, and even fewer drive foreign luxury cars. Most millionaires, the research shows, never spent anywhere near $65,000 on a car. In fact, more than half never paid more than $30,000.
So, okay, what does this tell you, listening right now? It means they're not buying status symbols. They're investing in things like utility, reliability, longevity.
And their shopping habits just reinforce this. It's almost comical. Can you believe this? Over 30% of the millionaires they surveyed hold JCPenney credit cards.
JCPenney. Not exactly rodeo drive.
Not exactly. Yeah. Sears and Penney's cards were significantly more popular among these wealthy individuals than status stores like Neiman Marcus or Saks. And the American Express Platinum card, that supposed symbol of affluence. Only about 6.2% of millionaires actually had one.
The book tells this great story, this anecdote about Johnny Lucas, to really drive it home. He's a millionaire, net worth over $2 million, but he looks completely middle class, no mortgage, kids' college funds are full. But his spending habits, the authors call them mundane.
Mundane, yeah. Not exciting TV.
Right. His story wouldn't make good reality TV because his rewards are all intangible. Things like genuine financial independence, the satisfaction of self-discipline, being a good provider. It makes you wonder, are we kind of obsessed with the wrong kind of financial story?
I think that's exactly it. Most of the focus is on displaying wealth, not quietly accumulating it. Which leads to the next logical question.
Yeah.
Okay, if they aren't the flashy, high-spending types we imagine, who are these actual millionaires?
Well, the profiles give us some really key insights. For starters, 80% are first-generation rich. They made it themselves.
Self-made. That's huge.
And get this, 2/3 of working millionaires are self-employed, even though self-employed people make up less than 20% of the whole U.S. workforce. That tells you loud and clear, many of them are entrepreneurs.
And it's fascinating to look at their occupations. Often, they're in what the authors call these dull, normal businesses.
Dull normal? Like what?
Think welding contractors, auctioneers, rice farmers, people who own mobile home parks, pest controllers.
Okay, not glamorous tech startups.
Definitely not. Auctioneers, for instance, turn out to be highly productive. Over 35% are millionaires. And they're typically much more frugal than, say, their counterparts in big cities. What's really insightful here is that the path to serious wealth often isn't about being flashy or disrupting everything. It's about finding these fundamental, steady needs where demand is consistent, competition might be less intense, and you could just quietly, methodically build value over the long haul. It's kind of a testament to essential, maybe unsung services.
And their income. The median annual realized income is around $131,000. The average is higher, about $247,000, because you have some really high earners pulling it up. But crucially, their wealth is mostly in cattle. That's their net worth, their assets, not chattel, which means expensive possessions.
Jackal, not chattel. I like that.
Yeah. And education. They're generally pretty well educated. Many have advanced degrees. But interestingly, only about 17% went to elite private K-12 schools themselves. What they do spend heavily on, though, is their own children's education. 55% of their kids attend private schools. That's a really significant investment in the next generation.
And looking at their family life, another consistent pattern emerges. Most are married once, and they stay married. About half of the wives don't work outside the home. And if they do, you know the #1 occupation.
Let me guess.
Teacher.
Teacher.
Exactly. And what's even more intriguing is that these wives are often the planners, the meticulous budgeters, sometimes even more conservative with money than their millionaire husbands. They mention a Mrs. Rule, for example, who meticulously cuts coupons and budgets everything, even though they have a $2 million net worth.
Wow. That level of discipline is just baked in.
It really is.
Okay, so we've talked about who they are. But what specific habits actually build that wealth? The book argues pretty strongly that defense is absolutely key. And that means, first and foremost, being frugal is the cornerstone. It's foundational. It's not about depriving yourself, they stress that. It's about economy in the use of resources, being efficient.
Which brings us to how they actually manage their money day to day. Most millionaires budget. The stats are interesting. For every 100 who don't, about 120 do.
So budgeting is more common than not.
Definitely. And even for those who don't keep a strict line item budget, many practice paying yourself first. That means investing at least 15% of their annual income before they spend anything else. And nearly 2/3 know exactly how much their family spends each year on the basics: food, clothing, shelter.
They know their numbers.
They know their numbers. It's like a financial version of physical fitness. Just like someone who's fit jogs every day, even if they don't seem to need to. The wealthy consistently work at staying financially fit. They budget, they control expenses. It's an ongoing effort.
And that effort clearly extends to how they handle investments. Think about their time allocation. PAWs, the prodigious accumulators, spend nearly twice the hours per month planning their investments compared to UAWs. It's like 8.4 hours versus just 4.6 hours.
That's a significant difference.
Yeah. And self-employed people, they tend to just weave investment planning right into their work life. It's integrated. The book also points out that shock planning, trying to make radical short-term changes, that usually fails. It's the consistent discipline planning starting early that really makes the difference.
And when you look at the act of investing itself, it's fascinating. It's much more about smart, focused investing rather than frantic speculative trading. Millionaires tend to dedicate more time to studying fewer investment options, really becoming masters of the ones they choose. That's a pretty profound difference in approach, isn't it?
It really is. The book gives this stark contrast. You have Dr. South, remember him, the high-income UAW surgeon.
Right, the UAW doctor.
He blew $35,000 in just 1 year on advice and trades for a portfolio that wasn't even performing well. He had this $200,000 portfolio, but he believed he didn't need to make his own decisions. And he had less than $40K in his pension plan.
Ouch.
Then you have his counterpart, Dr. North, the PAW. He spent zero on transaction fees or financial advice. He acted as his own advisor, rarely sold stocks, and he has over $2 million in his profit-sharing plan.
Just night and day.
It really makes you think about how people choose their financial advisors.
You'd think people would be incredibly careful, right? Like when productive businesses hire key people or suppliers, they do serious background checks.
Of course. Due diligence.
Yet so many people, even high-income earners, hire financial advisors based on a cold call with almost no real background information.
Yeah.
There's this one millionaire, Mr. Martin, who has this brilliant test. He asks potential brokers for their personal income tax returns and their personal portfolio history.
Wow, does anyone ever give it to him?
His experience, not a single one ever has. So instead, he relies on referrals from trusted CPAs and their successful clients, people who are already walking the walk. And stepping back, millionaires often use CPAs for more than just tax prep. They use them as trusted advisors for tax and investment strategy. The authors basically recommend find a CPA who works with a lot of PAWs. Find someone who actually embodies the principles you're trying to achieve yourself.
Okay, now let's shift gears a bit and talk about something the authors label economic outpatient care, EOC.
Ah, yes, ESE.
This refers to those substantial economic gifts, those acts of kindness that parents often give their adult children and grandkids. And here's where it gets really interesting, maybe even a little uncomfortable, because it presents this paradox that might challenge everything you thought about helping out your loved ones financially.
It's truly striking.
Yeah.
Because while EOC is almost always well-intentioned, the data shows it often actively hinders wealth accumulation.
Hinders it.
Well, first, parents who provide a lot of EOC tend to have less wealth themselves compared to parents whose kids are independent. And here's the really tough part. The more dollars adult children receive in gifts, the fewer dollars they actually accumulate on their own.
So the help actually reduces their own wealth building.
Often, yes. It can create this kind of facade. The recipients get used to a higher consumption lifestyle, but they can't actually maintain it without ongoing subsidies. They become dependent on that external support instead of building their own financial foundation.
The book gives this really vivid example. Mary and Lamar, remember them? They have a $60,000 annual income, which is decent, but they live in a $300,000 house.
Right, way above what their income would normally support.
All because of substantial EOC from Mary's mother. She helps with the down payment, helps with mortgage payments, gives annual cash gifts. And the result? Mary and Lamar have no budget. They just live beyond their means. Meanwhile, their neighbors, who get no EOC, might live more modestly, but are often more content, more confident, building their own wealth steadily. It really makes you think about the subtle messages we send about financial responsibility, doesn't it?
It's a critical point. Those cash gifts, especially when they're just for general consumption,
Yeah.
they tend to dampen initiative. They reduce productivity, and they can become habit-forming. Recipients start to blur the line between their parents' wealth and their own. They almost see their parents' capital as their own income, something to be spent.
And that leads to other issues, right? Like credit dependence.
Exactly. Gift receivers often become more dependent on credit. They use it to kind of smooth out cash flow problems while they're waiting for the next windfall from mom and dad.
So is all EIC bad then? Is there any kind of helpful financial support?
That's a fair question.
Yeah.
And no, not all EOC is necessarily detrimental. The book makes an important distinction. Beneficial EOC would be things like, say, subsidizing education, teaching them how to fish, essentially.
Investing in their skill.
Or maybe earmarking gifts specifically for starting or enhancing a business, like giving private stock to help them launch. But detrimental EOC, that's pretty clearly defined as just cash gifts for consumption, for lifestyle support.
Okay.
And interestingly, this whole EOC thing even seems to have gender differences. The authors found that housewives, particularly those they call Type B, the ones who are more financially dependent, are the most likely to receive EOC in inheritance. And even daughters who work are more likely than sons to receive gifts, often because parents have this idea that women need money of their own. And it points to this other, maybe unintended consequence. Affluent parents, often with the best intentions, try to help their less resourceful children more. But in doing so, they can inadvertently make the strong stronger by letting them be independent and make the weaker ones weaker by making them dependent.
There's that really powerful, almost kind of tragic example in the book. The sisters, Sarah and Alice.
Oh yes, Sarah and Alice.
Sarah was the independent one, got no EOC from her tough father, and she went on to become a self-made millionaire. Her sister Alice relied heavily on their father's EOC. She got a large inheritance, spent it quickly, and ultimately left her own children with basically no financial security. And now it's Sarah, the independent one, who's actually providing for Alice's kids.
It's such a sobering story, really highlights the long-term impact of financial enabling versus fostering independence.
Absolutely. So given all that, what lessons can we pull out about actually teaching children about money effectively?
Well, the biggest one seems to be actions speak way louder than words. Think about Dr. North again, the PAW doctor we mentioned. His daughter, who's now a successful PAW herself, actually made a poster of his King's rules for life and money.
What were some of them?
Things like, be tough. Never say poor me. Don't walk in the back of your shoes, basically. Don't abuse your belongings. Close the front door, meaning don't waste money like on heating or cooling. Always put things back, flush, and say yes to those who need help. They weren't just rules about money. They were principles for a disciplined, self-reliant life.
And the key there, you see, is congruency. You have to walk the talk. Kids are incredibly perceptive. Parents absolutely must live by the financial rules they preach. Dr. North's kids became disciplined and frugal precisely because their parents were disciplined and frugal. They saw it every day.
Absolutely. And another interesting tactic many PAW parents use, delaying access to wealth. They often set up trusts that don't actually distribute significant money to their children until they're, say, 40 years old or even older.
40. Why so late?
The idea is to give the children crucial time, decades, really to develop their own disciplined lifestyles and work habits first, without having the immediate crutch or temptation of inherited wealth distorting their choices and efforts.
That makes a lot of sense. Let them build their own foundation. What about focusing on achievement versus status symbols?
That's another core teaching. Emphasize the children's accomplishments, their achievements, not the parents' symbols of success, or even their own yet. There's Ken's story in the book. His father was a physician, a PAW, and he taught Ken that money will find you if you just focus on being the absolute best in your chosen field. So Ken works as a busboy, paid for his own grad school, lives modestly, and guess what? He's a PAW too. It's a powerful idea. Focus on mastery and contribution, and the financial rewards often follow.
And maybe the most profound lesson these wealthy parents seem to impart is that there are things in life far, far more valuable than just money.
Yes, that perspective seems crucial. Things like good health, living a long life, happiness, a loving family, self-reliance, having good friends, building a good reputation, having respect, integrity, honesty, a history of your own achievements. Money, in their view, is important, sure, but it's more like the icing on the cake.
Icing on the cake, not the cake itself. That really reshapes how you might approach things.
Definitely. And this brings us to maybe a more strategic insight for anyone listening who wants to build wealth themselves. Finding your niche. And specifically, targeting market opportunities, often related to the affluent. It's a remarkable pattern. Many people who supply goods or services to the affluent often become wealthy themselves.
Okay, so if millionaires aren't spending tons on flashy cars and suits, what do they spend their money on? Where are the opportunities?
Well, they're definitely not price sensitive when it comes to certain things. Think high-quality investment advice, accounting services, tax advice, legal services, also top-notch medical and dental care for themselves and their families, educational products, and homes.
Things that protect or grow their assets or invest in health and family.
Exactly. And remember, many are self-employed business owners, so they're also consistently buying industrial products and services for their businesses. And yes, as we said, they spend significantly on their children and grandchildren, especially for education and helping them get established, maybe with housing.
In this affluent market, it's significant, right? It's growing.
Immense. The book projected that by 2005, millionaire households would control something like 59%, $16.3 trillion of America's personal wealth. So the service opportunities catering to this group are huge and growing.
Like what kind of services are booming?
Well, attorneys, for one,
Yeah.
especially those specializing in estate law, think wills and trusts. Billions in fees projected there. Also tax law, obviously, helping minimize taxes for the affluent. And even immigration law, as wealthy individuals from other countries seek U.S. citizenship.
Okay, law. What else?
Medical and dental specialists are another big area. Things like cosmetic dentistry, plastic surgery, dermatology, allergists, even psychologists, psychiatrists, chiropractors. The affluent pay for a lot of this care out of pocket for themselves and their kids. The projected spend was over $52 billion.
Wow. And education, you mentioned.
Huge, especially private schools. Grandparents are often willing to foot the bill for high tuition. Specialized tutoring is big too. Accountants, of course, are in high demand for complex tax planning, estate and gift tax solutions, business valuation, retirement planning.
So professional services are key. What about other areas?
Real estate and housing-related services do well. Property management, high-end security systems, interior design, especially as affluent parents often help subsidize home purchases for their adult children. And travel. Don't forget travel. The affluent spend quite a bit on vacations, often with family. Something like 55% spend over $5,000 a year, and about 1 in 6 spend over $10,000. It paints a very different picture of their spending priorities than the stereotypes suggest.
And going back to the millionaires themselves, we talked about those dull, normal businesses they often own.
Right. Industries like wallboard manufacturing, building materials, mobile home parks, pest control. They might not sound exciting, but they're often stable, have less cutthroat competition, and generate consistent, predictable wealth over time.
And self-employment itself seems key for many of them.
It really does. It offers more freedom, and many perceive it as actually lower risk than working for a big corporation where you can be downsized anytime. And successful business owners usually have deep, prior hands-on experience in the industry they choose. Remember Larry's example. Instead of starting a whole printing company with huge overhead, he used his sales background to become a self-employed broker of printing services. Much lower overhead, leveraging his core skill.
Smart. Finding the leverage point.
Exactly. And this ties into that idea of intellectual capital. Millionaires often encourage their kids to become self-employed professionals, doctors, lawyers, accountants. Because, as one put it, they can take your business, but they can't take your intellect. Those professions require deep knowledge, they're portable, and they tend to have high built-in profitability.
And underlying all this, the book talks about courage.
Yes, it makes a crucial point. Entrepreneurs aren't fearless. Nobody is. But they are individuals who learn to deal with and overcome their fears day in and day out. And that consistent act of facing challenges, pushing through fear, that's what builds resilience that ultimately leads to their success.
Okay, so as we start to wrap up this deep dive, let's try to summarize the big takeaways for you, our listener. We've really uncovered that true wealth. It isn't really about how much you earn or what you conspicuously consume, not at all. It seems to be fundamentally about how much you accumulate, how much you keep. And that comes down to hard work, consistent discipline, and this quiet commitment to living below your means.
Absolutely. It's about prioritizing financial independence over just looking like you have high social status. It's about choosing paths that are often unassuming but strategically sound. And it's about instilling these vital, sometimes countercultural values in the next generation.
So here's maybe a final thought to leave you with, something to mull over. We've seen that many people with high incomes, people who are well-educated, they really struggle to actually build wealth, while others, maybe with far more modest incomes, become millionaires. So if formal education and high earnings don't guarantee affluence, and if that well-intentioned economic outpatient care often actually undermines it, what fundamental messages in our society about success, about consumption, maybe need to be reevaluated, especially if we want future generations to have a real shot at achieving genuine financial independence?
It's a powerful question. Think about the subtle cues, the messages we send and receive every single day, about spending versus saving. How do those shape not just our financial futures, but maybe our overall well-being, our sense of real security? Worth thinking about.